Okay, we're getting breaking news that's coming in right now from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is currently delivering its verdict in the Adani Hindenburg case, where several petitions had been filed in order to investigate the details of the Hindenburg research report. Now the Supreme Court is delivering its verdict. The Chief Justice of India reading out some of those details from the verdict. Srishti Ojha is joining me for more on this. Srishti, what more can you tell us?
The Supreme Court of India is currently right now delivering its verdict in a very important matter where several allegations were raised in the Hindenburg report against the Adani group of companies. The court had directed SEBI last year to conduct its investigation and also constituted an expert committee. However, later several allegations were made against SEBI's investigation and also allegations were raised against the neutrality of the expert committee constituted by the Supreme Court. Today, while delivering the verdict, however, the court has in a way shown its trust in the investigation that has been conducted by the SEBI till now. My colleagues Kanu Sharda and Nalini Sharma sending live updates from the verdict being delivered right now. The court has clearly said that power of Supreme Court to enter into the domain of SEBI is limited. As also earlier told by the Solicitor General to the top court, out of the 24 question transactions, 22 have already been investigated. 2 of those transactions were still left. The quasi-judicial process to investigate those transactions was started, however, was not completed as what the court had been told. Now, court has said that the court has directed SEBI to complete its investigation into the remaining 2 transaction within 3 months. The court has said that SEBI should take this investigation to the logical conclusion in accordance with law. Court has also very clearly stated that no valid grounds have been raised till now before the court to direct SEBI to regulate its amendments that are made by it in exercise of its due legislative powers. Not just that, the court has also not shown any, is not in favor of any of the allegations that were raised against the committee members of the committee that was in fact constituted by the court itself. The court has also said no ground to transfer the probe from SEBI to any other, no ground to transfer the probe or investigation in this case from SEBI. The court has said that this particular ground to transfer the probe out of SEBI to maybe a different committee or a court-constituted committee would only come if some willful or deliberate violation of rules has been committed, which has not happened in this particular case. Yes, according to the top court of the country, as also earlier pointed out by Supreme Court, the investor interest is paramount and should be taken care of. The court has asked the government and SEBI to take into consideration all the recommendations that have been made by the expert committee to strengthen the interest of the investors. Remember, Supreme Court had earlier also, when the court had begun hearing this case last year, had time and again stressed on the need to protect the investors in the market. In the stock market, especially from incidences like short selling and how it impacts the investors, is what the SEBI was also asked to focus on. We have more updates coming in. Like I said, SEBI has used the term opaque to describe the FPI, which was misconstrued by the expert committee. The court, as of now, has given 3 months' time to SEBI to complete its investigation in the 2 of the remaining question transactions till now. And in a way, the judgment as of now has not questioned the SEBI's investigation into the entire Adani Hindenburg issue. Also, all allegations that were raised by the petitioners, remember, applications were filed before the top court questioning whether or not the members of the expert committee constituted by the top court were neutral. It was also, one of the members was also accused of having appeared for Adani group of companies earlier in one of the matters before the court. The court was, however, not impressed with that argument even during the hearing and had told that the expert committee constituted is in fact not partial. Now the court has said that all allegations against the members of the expert committee are in fact unsubstantiated, and investor interest is and shall remain paramount, which is what the court has asked the government and SEBI to take into consideration and look after.
Right, so those are some of the highlights as far as that verdict is concerned, which the CJI is reading out right now. Remember, it's a 3-judge bench which was expected to deliver the verdict as far as those batches of petitions were concerned that demanded a very serious probe into the allegations leveled in the Hindenburg research report against the Adani Group. Now the Supreme Court says that it has faith in the SEBI's probe. It has given it 3 months' time in order to go ahead and look into 2 of the remaining allegations as far as the report was concerned, and then of course has expressed its faith in the expert committee as well. What about instilling faith as far as investors are concerned? Anything concerning that, because there were several charges that were made in the Hindenburg research report, and subsequent to that report becoming public as well, there were, of course, a lot of apprehensions in the market, Srishti.
Well, yes, like I said, Paulami, investor interest has been the paramount focus of Supreme Court since it began hearing this entire Adani Hindenburg case. As of now, the Supreme Court, another important update, the court has said that the government and SEBI will take into consideration the recommendations that have also been given by the expert committee constituted by the court to strengthen the interests of the Indian investors. And as far as the question of transfer of investigation that was also raised during the hearing, transferring the investigation from the SEBI, which is currently investigating the probe, to an SIT constituted by the court, that has been refuted by the top court. According to court, no such transfer is needed. Court has said that the power to transfer investigation has to be exercised in really exceptional circumstances, and those circumstances do not, there's no justified grounds to believe that those exceptional circumstances are existing in this particular case, and these powers cannot be exercised in absence of cogent justifications, is what the court has said. The court Okay, we are getting live updates right now where the CJI said that the court finds merit in SEBI arguments and there's no reason to interfere in the delegatory legislative powers. The current regulations are not tainted with illegality. Important observation from the Supreme Court, where I said that the current regulatory framework and the regulations the current regulations which are in place are not illegal, and the Hindenburg or any other such report cannot become the basis of ordering a separate probe. Big remark from Supreme Court. Remember, time and again during the hearing, these requests and prayers were made by the petitioner seeking transfer of the probe into the entire issue out of SEBI, and maybe they had sought investigation by a special SIT that the court would constitute. The court had constituted an expert committee only to monitor the probe and to focus on the regulatory framework and not to get into the investigation process as such. Now, in an important remark, the court has said that Hindenburg report or any other such report will not become the basis of ordering
that's a very important point, of course, the Supreme Court has made. The Hindenburg or any other such report cannot become the basis of ordering a separate probe. Srishti, stay on with us. Nalini Sharma, my colleague, is also joining me live right now. Nalini, again, just break down the highlights of this verdict so far.
Well, Paulami, the biggest takeaway is that the Supreme Court has categorically refused to order any special probe or any independent probe into the allegations that were raised in the Hindenburg report. In a very clear verdict that has been pronounced by the 3-judge bench that was headed by the Chief Justice of India, they have said that no third-party report, whether it's the Hindenburg report or the OCCPR, can be the basis for ordering any probe. They've also gone ahead and said that there is nothing on record to suggest or to cast any aspersions on the probe that is already being conducted by SEBI. At the very beginning, the Chief Justice laid down the tone of the verdict when he said that the court has only limited powers to enter into legislative domain regarding SEBI, and this is something that the SEBI is already looking into. 22 out of 24 investigations have been completed, and 3 months additional time has been given to SEBI to complete the investigation on the 2 remaining aspects. Remember, Paulami, when SEBI had filed its report before the Supreme Court, they had categorically said that 2 of the issues were remaining because they were still waiting to hear back from regulators who were based in countries abroad. And because the communication has still not been received, they were not able to conclude the probe on those 2 aspects. So 3 months additional time has been given. But at the same time, the Supreme Court in very categorical words has said that there are limited powers of the court to enter into this domain. SEBI is already looking into the matter. There is no question of ordering any independent probe either by a special investigation team or any agency like the CBI to investigate allegations that are being made in third-party reports like the Hindenburg and the OCCPR. They've also gone ahead and said that there is nothing on record to suggest or to cast any aspersions regarding the members of the expert committee and the role that was provided by them. At the same time, the Supreme Court also directed both SEBI and the central government to take into consideration the suggestions that were made by the expert committee, specifically for the aspect of investor protection. Because throughout the hearing, the Supreme Court has reiterated time and again that protection of the investors is its highest priority so that such instances do not happen again. And for that reason, they've said that the government and SEBI both need to take into consideration the suggestions that have been made by the expert committee, specifically with the point of view of protecting the investors in the country.
Right. So all in all, Nalini, can we surmise that the Supreme Court has placed its faith in the SEBI's investigation, the ongoing investigation?
Absolutely. In fact, the Supreme Court's also gone ahead and said that all of the amendments that were brought into the regulations by SEBI, they had the delegated legislative power to do so. So there is no reason to cast any aspersions of that. They have fully entrusted SEBI to go ahead with this entire probe, to come back with the report. It remains to be seen as to whether or not in the next 3 months' time, SEBI is able to complete this report, because time and again we've seen SEBI go back to the Supreme Court asking for additional time because they're not able to receive the communication from regulators that are located abroad. So we'll have to see whether that happens or not. But at the same time, the Supreme Court's categorically said that it's completely up to SEBI to find out as to whether or not there were any wrongdoings on behalf of the Adani Group. There will be no separate investigation by any independent agency or any special investigation team that's going to be ordered in this. The allegations that were raised by the petitioners, who had filed at least 4 PILs before the Supreme Court casting aspersions on the expert committee, have also been shot down by the Supreme Court. So absolutely on no ground is there any relief coming in for the petitioners who were hoping for an independent probe to be ordered into this entire case. But at the same time, the Supreme Court has also directed SEBI to ensure that steps are taken and valid steps are taken to ensure that investors can be protected. And also at the same time, they've put a time limit for the completion of this probe, which was also done earlier by the Supreme Court Polemy. But SEBI was not able to comply to that time limit, because of which contempt petitions were also filed. As far as we are understanding, the contempt petitions are still pending before the Supreme Court. The verdict on that has not been pronounced yet. But at the same time, on these petitions that were specifically asking for an investigation, the Supreme Court has categorically said that there will be no independent probe that will be ordered into the matter, and no third agency or third party report can be relied on while asking for an independent probe.
Okay. So that is what basically has happened so far in court. The Supreme Court, of course, delivering its verdict as far as the Adani Hindenburg batch of petitions are concerned. The Supreme Court categorically stated, as Nalini pointed out, no room to doubt the fairness of SEBI's probe into the allegations. So as far as SEBI is concerned, the Supreme Court has placed its faith in the SEBI's investigation, in SEBI's ongoing investigation, said there is no need for any sort of independent probe at this moment. Let's get a different perspective on this verdict from Siddharth Zarabi, who's patched with us at the moment. Siddharth, how do you, of course, read this verdict and what this means for the market, for the Adani Group as well? The Supreme Court saying that the expert committee on which there were some aspersions of conflict of interest cast by the petitioners, that is an unbiased expert committee. The Supreme Court says no need for any other third-party independent probe. They've placed their faith in SEBI's probe, and set a timeline as well, that as far as the 24 allegations are concerned, 22 have been looked into, 2 more need to be looked into, and the SEBI should be submitting its report within 3 months' time. Siddharth.
Well, I think the key takeaway, and there are several from this verdict, several of which you have mentioned, is the fact that there is no reason, according to the court, to interfere in the delegatory legislative powers. And it's gone on to talk about things like even the PIL. The key point here is that SEBI and government will have to take into considerations the recommendations of the committee to strengthen interest for Indian investors. This is very, very key. And the FPI regulations, I suspect, the point that has been made about not prohibiting opaque structures is something that will also be the subject matter of debate because the court has really made it clear that the government and SEBI will have to look into if there is any infraction of a law. Polami, I couldn't really catch you before that, and I think the line is now better. Could you repeat your question once again?
Right. As far as the market is concerned, quickly, Siddharth, this definitely, does this reassure investors? Because the Supreme Court has spoken about investor faith and protecting the investor is concerned as well.
Well, that is true. And while you were asking that, I just wanted to take a look at some of the stocks. For example, Adani Enterprises, it's up 4.35%.
Okay.
And so are the other shares. So clearly, as far as investors are concerned, the fact that the Supreme Court has rejected these petitions and said no irregularities is a significant point, Pauline.
Right. Siddharth, thank you so much for putting that into perspective for us. Nalini and Srishti, thank you so much again for bringing us the details from court.